So, welcome to the HYPERSKY podcast, where I talk about many different topics. This starts from something like gaming, but it'll probably go up to politics and other shit like that, and personal life and law and stuff. I'll just talk about a bunch of different topics, so feel free to check the timestamps if you're not sure about what to listen to, so hopefully you enjoy. I had to re-record this because I got distracted majorly, so yeah, I was talking about sponsorships and how I got one and then they didn't answer me, so I turned it down. And it got me thinking about basically counter sponsorship sort of stuff, and what it sort of led me to in the end was just I wanted to not support these just minimal monetary gains, and I just didn't want to support them as a product because it's like, it's kind of shitty, to be honest. Because as much as you can have a product and support it, you have to be sure that it works. It sort of came about from the honey sponsorship controversy and how that essentially fucked so many people over because of its nature. It basically screwed up so many things on just the sponsorship side, but also the content creators, and they weren't benefiting from it the way that they should have been, which is a monetary increase and just doing their job really. Like, it's damaged reputations because now some content creators are going to be associated with that. And I was just wondering, like, what the hell is going on? Like, why? Gaming Nexus did a great video on that. I won't go into all the details, but it's basically they're conning people by taking a cut of the money that sponsors would otherwise get. That's sponsorees? I don't know. The people being sponsored would otherwise benefit, but Honey are taking it all sort of PayPal. It's not good. But the thing that really makes it frustrating is, like, nobody's getting paid for that, and there's been no comments on it. Like, we don't even know what happened. So it's a bit of a bizarre situation there, because we literally have no idea what's happened, or whether Honey's been taken to court, or whether it's been a sort of a agreement they've met and decided, like, yeah, we're going to compensate you. Let's leave this alone. But they can't recover from this, surely. So it's a very bizarre situation, in all honesty. And I don't really know what's happened again. Like, nothing. I've seen nothing of it for at least a year now. And it got me thinking about, should we have shout-outs to products? And I think there's a benefit to this in the scope of supporting a smaller business, but there's absolutely no benefit when it's a larger business. So, for example, some idiots will shout out McDonald's for some reason, and whilst I'm really only partial to them because I only see the bug plant as the only good thing they've ever made, I don't really think they deserve any sort of shout out for that. Like, it's just pointless. It benefits no one. It's an unhealthy product. It's capitalistic, monopolistic for that matter, because let's not forget, they're all in competition over there, and fast food, whatever, dystopia. They're trying to compete and be as cruel to animals as possible. So it's difficult. It's hard to address. And I don't really know the best way to go about it. So if you wanted to shout out someone, you should only shout out a small business, and that should be the small thing. It doesn't have to be a business, but a small thing. And that would be the criteria. That's generally, in my opinion, the safest way to go about this, because, you know, smaller businesses will be struggling, but they're not under the foot of like other capitalists. Like, they're free for the moment. And that's important to know. So it's good to promote a smaller company for these things. It's why I don't like sponsors. They just feel like big companies for promoting something that's probably not healthy. I remember looking into like Magic Spoon and stuff, and it's like, okay, well, it's good that there's a cereal alternative out there, but did anybody ask for this? And also, why is it not vegan? Like, why the fuck is there milk in this? You're just adding bullshit to more bullshit, and that's not helping. It's going to make people unhealthy. It's going to give them quicker risk of heart failure. The quantity is probably small, admittedly, but it's still a risk either way. And I think quantity in studies, at least from what I've seen on it and watched in videos, it seems to be like a risk anyway. No matter how much you consume, it's a bit like alcohol in that sense. There's a risk of just getting ill from it, like severely so. And for all I know, from all the animal products I've consumed, I could very well be next one. So I don't know. But yeah. So about shout out thing, like, I don't really know. I'm debating this, and that's why it's the first topic. I want to know what people think of this, because I'd make the criteria for a shout out basically something small. It could be an indie game, it could be an app, it could be even just food and drink that I support strongly. Like even the products like from the supermarkets. Like, there's so many of them I can shout out because I've tried a lot and I do like them. Yeah, it's like it's a complicated situation, but at the end of the day, we should be promoting health and well-being and smaller businesses for that matter. But not any of this other garbage where it promotes the opposite. I'm interested to know what people think. Given that remaster culture is a thing in gaming now, where not only are developers making it, there are also players playing it. And I'm not all that thrilled about it because, as a concept, like, I get it. Having a game be updated to HD for future audiences to play is no doubt a good thing. But what I don't understand is, why can't we just be re-releasing it instead? Because the thing that Nintendo sucks at when they release old games is that they tie it to the store and their subscription service, basically. Well, they tie it to the subscription service, that's what I meant. But if they tie it to the store, that's fine. But they're going to overprice it, I think, if they do sell it on the store. And another issue that spawns from that is because it's linked to the subscription, naturally it's going to be inaccessible to some. Because not everyone wants a subscription. Well, they get the Nintendo Switch to play on the go, not necessarily online. Well, you don't even have a connection if you want to go. So, it's weird. But when thinking about this question about what games are remastered, it's kind of hard to answer because there are quite a few different games that I would want remastered. Now, if we're talking a classic, maybe Saints Row 2. It had a terrible PC port and the graphics haven't aged too well. Though it's still a bit sort of janky in that sense, janky looking. But it could do with an update, that's for sure. I think it needs an update though, because I remember it not running on PC and even with mods it just failed. I do feel like it would benefit from that. But then I think about other games that I remembered quite fondly in childhood. And I think back to Sonic Adventure 1, Sonic Adventure 2, and Sonic Heroes. Basically 3 games that I grew up around. And they'd be great as remasters, because even though they're solid on their own, I think a remastered version would probably go a long way. honestly. And especially with like accessibility updates too, because fuck it, I didn't like Sonic Adventure 2 because of how difficult it was at times, like the cosmic exploration and stuff, whatever it was. I forgot its name. That was difficult. So it did sort of need an update in that sense. But I don't know what else I'd want updated in that sense. Just Cause 2 could do with one, because I remember it's a good game. I think it's aged well, to be honest. And that topic's quite relevant actually. But I don't think it's necessarily complete in that sense. Like, it still has areas where it's behind. Accessibility wise, not amazing. And the one thing that really pissed me off about it is the fact you couldn't 100% it. Like, that's so dumb. People with OCD like myself would be really bothered by that. Not really bothered by that. And also like the lack of labelling on the map, like fucking hell, that was frustrating as hell. I do not like that aspect. Yeah, just do this thing quick. So it's really just hard to decide what one game I'd want remastered. Because there are great games out there for sure, but there are so many games that just don't deserve one. Like the Last of Us games made no sense. I get it from an accessibility perspective, but just re-release it with the settings. Like, that's such an obvious thing to do. But even then, it doesn't need a remaster. Like Last of Us Part 2 was like, what, 3 years ago? Like, it didn't need a remaster, and for some reason they're making one. Like, are you joking? Like, what a waste of time, a waste of resources. Fuck me. It just makes no sense, and I don't know why they did that. So I'm not sure. I think looking at how much I enjoyed the games, Sonic off, Saints Row 2, it'd probably be at the bottom, surprisingly. Even though I liked it, it had a lot of issues, like it was difficult at times, it was frustrating as hell. A lot of people seem to forget with nostalgia. You just get very frustrated at these games. And some of them were so unnecessarily difficult. So Saints Row 2 will be at the bottom of the list. Did I mention... yeah, Just Cause 2. I'll definitely put Just Cause 2 at the bottom as well. Because it's a good game still. And it's really only two things, which one of them I consider major, but the completion one not really, in realistic terms. But yeah, like, it's fine as is. It still plays as far as I know. I only played it like 8 years ago, I think, or 7. And it was fun. But as for the Sonic games, this is where it gets interesting. Because graphically, Sonic Adventure 1 is the most embarrassing. Sonic Adventure 2 is an improvement, but still not great. Sonic Heroes, I don't recall it being that bad graphically speaking. I think it's a bit janky in areas. So I don't really know about graphics wise. Gameplay wise, though, definitely Sonic Adventure 2. I think that could do with updating. I definitely find some of these speed sections a bit tough. Like the fucking, what is it, Cosmic one, I can't remember what it's called. The treasure hunt stuff is also a bit annoying at times. I do find that a bit frustrating. Lack of ways to sort of go upwards in that sense. What's the other one? The mech sells it. There's also the racing, which I don't like. The racing was annoying. It's just doing laps to catch up to the limo that's also doing laps. It's just fucking weird. Okay, that needs updating. But the mech stuff was okay. Very cool. It's only better that it had a health bar rather than rings, but still. I think one of the most janky things about it is like the hovering system. I remember that sort of being the cause of like a lot of deaths back in the day. So that just wasn't a fun aspect. So I think I put Sonic Adventure. I need to talk about them actually. Sonic Adventure 1 definitely had some jank, a lot of it actually. The movement wasn't perfect, but it at least worked for Sonic anyway. Tails was okay. It was mainly like a racing sort of thing in his story. You know, just racing against something, and it sort of works. And he did have a boss fight at the end, which is kind of cool, where he gained his confidence in a very cute way. I think that could do with updating potentially. I don't know how exactly. Oh, the emblem system was awful. I remember that shit. I didn't like that system. It's just boring and it wasn't helpful. Yeah, I find it weird. Knuckles was actually quite fun. I think it's probably one that it actually wasn't as good as Sonic Adventure 2 actually, now I think about it. Because it wasn't clues, I don't think. Or at least it wasn't as easy to find them. But tracking it was kind of a pain too. Some of the areas a bit too. Then there's the I forgot the name. It's not Mega. It's E102. His story. I actually kind of liked it. I don't think it needs much changing. It's actually a very emotional story. I was surprised looking back on it as an adult. It's definitely a very sad story. But gameplay wise and graphically, like nothing wrong with E102 really. I can't remember anything that is. What about the other one, Amy? That was it. Because Amy had a story. Oh fuck, Amy was just. She was the scariest one to play because you're just being chased by this robot and trying to run away, which is fucking creepy. That has not aged well. And because of how you know Amy, like in modern Sonic, being like some sort of diva and sometimes badass, she definitely needs an update in Sonic Adventure for sure. Less of the stalking stuff and more action. She could do with more levels. She definitely deserves it. She has been given a bit of a silent treatment, I think, from Sonic's team, which is kind of sad. Yeah, treated as a side character all the time. Was she even in Sonic Crossworlds? Hang on. Sonic Crossworlds A? Amy's rival interactions? I don't know. I'm not sure actually. Surprisingly, I've actually seen Amy in it. I've seen Cream, seen Blaze, I've seen the other sort of Hawk girl, whatever her name was. I don't remember anyone else. That's weird. I know Big's in it, isn't he? So maybe it's just she's unpopular. Oh god, don't tell her that. Just to think what would happen. Yeah, so her gameplay is an update. Story wise, I think she's still fine. She's like helping the birdie and stuff. What else? There's big fishing. Oh my god, big the cat fishing. 100% needs an update. That was the thing of nightmares as a kid, and it's still the thing of nightmares as an adult. And you know, the speedruns are like they're not even that far from like just a normal run. I think anyway. It would be good for that to have an update, and then there's a supersonic bit at the end, which is fine. I think the knocking back bit is a bit annoying to an extent, the amount it does, and being so limited of rings. It's always a bit annoying. Yeah, I think it's Sonic Adventure, but I think I'll put that in like second place. And then I'll put Sonic Adventure 2 in first place, maybe. It's like the most wanted remaster because it's also very popular, let's be honest. It'd be great to see it in HD and with proper graphics, like imagine that, and also like updated soundtrack, like imagine it. It'd be fucking insane if they updated it, got T-Lopes on it, maybe. I don't know if T-Lopes actually likes Sonic Adventure. Probably does. Very much likes the Sonic CD stuff, so maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I might actually put Sonic Adventure in 1 for first place. Only because it seems to be the most unfinished game, and as a transition to 3D, as I've seen in other videos, it didn't age well. It definitely has aspects that feel behind, like graphically, definitely, animation, yeah. Story-wise, it's okay, I suppose. But it just wasn't the best transition. So it would be good to have it updated. Sonic Adventure 2 obviously in second, but Sonic Heroes I haven't talked about much because it's actually too simple of a game concept. So it's not really, it's too special. It's not even really worthy of a remaster in my opinion. That's quite low on the list at least for that. Because the only parts I really take issue with is how the difficulties are spread out between the different teams, and you can only unlock them after doing one or the other. For some reason I think, was that how you do it? I can't remember. Or can you pick? I can't remember actually. So maybe that's wrong. But I think being able to pick like the easy team as the first team, which is obviously Team Rose, would be good, and obviously a normal Team Sonic, Team Sonic, and Shadows, Team Dark. That would be the hardest difficulty. But I think it'd be good to sort of organise it in that way, so that players sort of understand. You do have tutorials in, but it's not great. Also removing that tutorial from fucking Team Rose, I think is. Was it? Actually, I can't remember. My memory's really foggy on this. But it would be good to fix that. Make it more relevant. And more accessible. And Team Galactics definitely needs an update. But graphically, I can't really say. Only the animations I remember being a bit bad. Yeah, I think that's it really, and I can't think of any other games I'd want remastered, exactly. It's really hard to think. I don't really know of any. Because I just played like live service games like Battlefield back in the day, and even then, most don't really need a remaster. So it's really hard to pick. Yeah, I can't really think of anything. Because like, even then some games have been remastered, like Burnout Paradise for example. Didn't need one, but it got a remaster anyway. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's on my unofficial list anyway. So, move on to the next topic. I forget that I'm doing this now and I can actually talk about stories of past and future. Yes, I am from the future. I've come to tell you to fucking vote green. That aside, I have some stories to tell about various things. So you may hear about them anyway from me about just various things, and I don't know, like it will vary on the topic itself. So I don't know, but it'll be interesting for sure. I'm trying to think of what's the first story I really want to say here. I guess like childhood bullying, like going into sort of tougher topic to tackle about. I'm just feeling a bit down about it because it is quite a frustrating situation. Yeah, my childhood bullying was weird. From a child, yeah, well, the bullying was from a child most of the time. Primary school, it happened the most because I was overweight and I was seemingly weird. I had to fight back at some cases, so I try to anyway. And really, like my best advice for people going through bullying at the moment is actually fight back. Do lasting damage because fuck me, you don't want those people around. You want them to learn their fucking lesson, and like literally, it's a horrific situation. You don't want to go through the mental health issues of being a victim of your life. That's one of the most important lessons I learned, and one of the things I wish I could go back and change. In secondary school, there was less bullying, but I did often feel like because I was so intimidating in nature, most people didn't bother with me. Because there was, I think, cases of other people bullying each other, and I was bullied by my first girlfriend, technically speaking. It was an ex. It was after we broke up, actually. And yeah, like my friends at the time were being bullied themselves, and even the people I knew around the school. Like there was this autistic guy. He was often mocked and stuff because he was autistic and seemingly weird. He was one of the louder types, the extroverts. For some reason, my type is quite uncommon. I think it's just PDD. We're just not very social. I think most of us will be matches made in heaven anyway. As long as they're not extroverted, but still, he was bullied. Sounds like a, oddly enough, pretty much autistic coded kid there who was bullied for something. I remember he was quite into birds, and it's kind of cute in that way. But one of the things that really pissed me off is he was bullied for being scared of thunder. Like, you fucking kidding me? I'm not keen on it, and like, he's a fucking child. Like, what the hell? It's just so dystopian. Like, why? It's just like, it's such a horrible situation, especially when you're just hearing this as like schoolyard banter. Like hearing that some fucking kid is crying because he doesn't like thunder, it's like, what the hell? There's so much wrong with how not only schools bring up kids but also parents, because I think you should report that. That is a form of bullying, and it's definitely a form of discrimination, because in that situation where this kid was almost definitely sensitive to hearing, or sensitive to hearing anything really, that would be traumatic, and it would be quite devastating to hear any sort of noise like that. Like it is for me as well. It's gotten worse as I've grown as an adult. But besides that, there was a situation with my friends at the time anyway, and they're both pretty much easy targets for bullies, and that fucking sucked. And they never really picked on them when they were with me, and that's because I was intimidating in nature. It's very bizarre, to be honest. Like, people weren't touching us because of me, and whilst I'm happy about the fact that I wouldn't be bullied as a result, it also just sort of leaves me wondering, like, was I just a tank to begin with? Like, just naturally born tank. That's to really like intimidate people, and not really take the hits, but just prevent damage. That's what I mean by that. And it just feels like that way most of the time, in all honesty. So it's a weird situation, and I do have other weird stories, like my friend was a smoker at the age of 10. He quit at some point and was on the right track. The other guy, I swear he had tics or something. It wasn't like the usual type where it's just like swearing or random noises. It's just like suddenly, like during a conversation, you just have a tick. So it wasn't spontaneous sort of ticks. Yeah, just I've always been around odd people in school, and it really taught me a lot about diversity as well. Because not everyone was nice in school. It did show me that there are different types of people, and you need to respect them. And importantly, you need to expect them as well. We had a special needs department in my school. I'm not sure if it's really a secret, because I think most have them anyway. But they specialise in helping people like me and other kids with other learning disabilities or physical disabilities, which is one of them, just to be able to learn and enjoy school. Like, they literally had an area to go to if you didn't enjoy a lesson or something, or just needed a time out, which is amazing. And apparently after I left, they removed it because I had a sibling in there. It's just fucking annoying. Like, that's stupid. Of all the things to cut, you cut the thing that could have provided so much security to kids. And apparently school's got much worse, so it's like there's more bullies, there's more abusive behaviour from kids, believe it or not. And I'm pretty sure I've heard of like sexual assaults as well taking place, so it's not a nicer place. Yeah, back then we had nothing to worry about, but now it's like, oh, okay, now adults have to worry. Thanks, government, thanks, UK education or whatever. It's just, it sucks. Yeah, our education did fail us, and it does lead to like where I am now, where I realise a lot of the time I've always sort of been protective in nature. Knowing of the diversity that I know about, people in wheelchairs and even religions, actually, I forgot to mention that. One of my friends in school was in a wheelchair and a Jehovah's Witness. And I knew him for pretty much the entire time. It's like the same year as me. And he was a nice guy. But he definitely taught me a lot about disability that I didn't know. It's like, holy crap. Like, one of the surprising things, I remember one day, it's like, because he's bound to a wheelchair, I was like, okay, so you can't move your legs? And the answer I got from the teaching assistant was like, not exactly. Which I was worried about, like, how? Like, why are you in a wheelchair exactly? Like, my dumb innocent self asking. I didn't actually get the answer why. For some reason I was a bit obscure. It's like, the only thing I got was like, apparently he woke up one day and his legs just weren't working. That's all I got, and it sounded like a neuro issue, possibly. Not really a physical issue, but neuro related. Whatever that could mean. But it eventually led on to something surprising later on, because obviously he hadn't lost complete function of them, but that would imply something completely different. He had this helping thing, I don't know what you call it, but it allowed him to basically sort of stand up, which is fucking amazing. I didn't even know they had that sort of technology. So he was like joining us in like physical education and stuff, and you know, just playing like basketball and stuff. It wasn't moving around necessarily, but he could at least move around a bit more freely than in what, I can't even say that, and in a chair, so just more free. But yeah, like, that's the thing with diversity, it teaches me a lot. And one of the other interesting things is we had a sort of school trip to a special needs school, basically one I would have otherwise gone to, but it's a different one actually. It's the sort of city we live in. But the trip was there to give you experience with them, and I think it was a great idea. but I met some interesting people there. I met some, no, found some interesting places too. It's not actually like the normal school curriculum from what I can gather, because we're under the supervision of obviously their own teaching people. Don't think they're really assistants, I think they're just teachers. But they get to do pretty much whatever they want, which is amazing. You know, because they're not really able to learn, being special needs and severely so. But it was amazing. I had some good experiences there, and one of them that stuck with me was this kid who was into zombie stuff, which was like, that was amazing. At the time I was playing the fiddle too, and it's like, holy crap. And I think he was actually playing it as well, believe it or not. He was like really into zombies, which is like fascinating. It's like, I fucking love those experiences, and I'm actually getting tears in my eyes. It's quite a happy moment, really. But yeah, it's like, there's a diversity of people, and you obviously have the few that aren't like as expressive or like him, like the zombie fan. But it's still a good experience either way. You get to know more about people, and it shows you that it's really not a difficult situation to even understand. You know, just because they can't learn, it doesn't mean they can't learn at all. It just means they need more help, and obviously a place to learn. That's the important thing, because sticking them all together in the lowest function groups in mainstream school, it leads to problems. It leads to not being able to learn, and I've experienced that firsthand myself. I could say this as a former student of a mainstream school. So it's a massive problem. So learning spaces are really important to keep people safe and able to learn. That's really it, and sometimes you do get special needs people who are a bit violent. But that's that really. And the one place I saw in there that was interesting is there was like a sensory room, which was fucking amazing. From all I can remember is like it was a kind of darkish room, but you had this like cushiony sort of underneath, obviously, with like a proper cover. I think I don't know if it's leather or plastic. It's something. It wasn't frustrating. It's like sitting on the leather seat, I think. But in the middle and stuff, you had these big lava lamp things, and they were fucking cool. They were like changing colour, I think. It was amazing. And I look back on that fondly because it's like amazing experience. Yeah, like, I can't really remember much else. It's weird. It's one of those things, I think, with time it's disappeared, but I also remember the going into zombies and just the varied sort of other diversity actually of like special needs people. And that did teach me a lot. At the time I may not have been that interested, but I did learn that there are in fact a lot of different types of people. It's one of those things I wish I realised sooner as an adult, because it's important to know. I don't know if every special needs person is the same. That's why I was in a mainstream school. I was one of the supposedly more capable people of the group, more intelligent at least. At least that's what they said to me. Because even though I've purposely failed tests to just get them over with, I literally sat down on their cities and wrote random numbers and stuff. I seem to have been considered smart, so even if they somehow figured that out, I guess they realised I was smart enough to cheat the system, to do random guesses rather than calculate things. But yeah, I think the opportunity granted to me by mainstream school has taught me a lot. It hasn't taught me a ton in terms of education, but it taught me about socialising and diversity. I think that's why most people of my generation at least seem to be at least somewhat inclusive, even though we've never been brought up with these ideas, these diversities, like properly anyway. Like we didn't learn about LGBT+, but I think most of us are. And there are probably other cases where that's the thing, maybe race as well. Definitely had multicultural. That was another thing. We had a Muslim girl in school. I'm not too sure about teaching kids about this, but either way, it's diversity. It's something. Yeah, I don't really know what else to add to this, to be honest. It's just a lot of interesting scenarios, and it's just a school story, really. A cool school story. It's just some of my experiences and stuff. We also had like school trips, but I never went on them because I was just too nervous. Because sometimes when you go on a school trip, you have to go into school still, not necessarily to learn, but just to be there as in attendance. So you have to sort of fake it, and I was there with other disabled people actually. But it's always so weird and awkward when that happens. I was just never into it. I didn't like being away from home. And I was quite thankful that I didn't actually go because some stories I heard from them just sounded bad. Like, I didn't really want to go. It's just not a good situation. Yeah, it just wasn't great, in all honesty. But neither was being at school, so it's like kind of hard to tackle that. I think there's anything else in school I missed. Don't know. There's also that traumatic side of primary school where I didn't want to go in at all. But secondary school did a good job of keeping me incentivized to go, which was good. Even though I didn't actually want to go to school, I just wanted to play games at home. I was far more improved from primary school where I wasn't really treated right by anyone. Teachers weren't great, teaching assistants weren't great, and obviously the kids definitely weren't good. So yeah, it's a sad situation. I had some weird fucking stories from that as well, from after I left, because again, sibling went there. Like, there's a really weird situation, like some fucking sexual harassment from a kid. But yeah, that's enough of that. Jesus, that's a long story. Let's move on to the next topic then. So, it's almost turned into a topic about ranting about they're fucking racist again. Well, really the only thing I can say at that point is just shut the fuck up and listen. Because literally, one of the biggest problems here is that it's a march and pretty much I don't know what you call it, a protest that is completely fueled by hatred. It's not fueled by love or compassion for its own country. It's literally hatred, and I'd argue it's even hatred for our own country. So that sucks. And I don't think, no matter what we do, it will just always be hatred. Like, apparently there's stories going around now, whether they're true or not, it depends really, but apparently little girls who had immigrated here are being sexually assaulted by grown men and teenagers. And they're saying, go back to your own country. Like, what the fuck? Are you shitting me? You know, these racists are the ones saying these are the people who aren't peaceful, like these little fucking little girls. But then they're the ones enacting violence. Are you fucking kidding me? And this is just more proof that the justice system is failing us. Because the actual dangerous people here are literally putting these lives at risk, putting this little girl's life at risk even, from severe amounts of trauma from not just the sexual assault, but racism as well. And there's going to be so much trauma to address in later adulthood where that will unfortunately creep up on her. And possibly lead her down a darker mental health route. And even in like a rare case scenario, like she could even become the perpetrator. That's how complicated psychology is. It's literally something that can happen. It does fuck up your mind. And that's really something that we should be avoiding regardless of how we feel about someone. It's so fucking stupid. Like, we should be preventing this shit. That's what I mean to say. And I don't really know why the police aren't doing something about these sort of cases. It sort of means that they're racist as well. So there is pretty much no winning here. So I think it comes down to community effort really. Like, I think if people have multicultural friends and stuff and live in a multicultural area, I think you have the obligation to at least protect those people in some way or another, or support them. Because I don't think everyone's available to essentially walk down the street with them to their locations and back. But I think at least you can provide a support network and start talking and be able to do things on their behalf, like even report crimes to the police. It's just like trying to make them feel more welcome and safe. That's literally what we should be doing. Because none of this is acceptable. And we still get people now, for some stupid fucking reason, saying England's running England flags, what a surprise. And they're trying to make it out that the flags don't have a certain intent behind them, which it definitely does. And I'm not proud of this country at all. I'll never run the flag until I see a country that has equality, that has acceptance, that has respect. I'll never run a flag for a country now, especially in this situation, that's condoning the sexual assault of minors, who regardless of whether they're migrants or not. And that's the other thing apparently in that video, it's like, according to the comment, it's anecdotal purely, for sure. Take it with a grain of salt, but apparently people are commenting saying that, good. Like, that's how sick this is. It just seems to get darker every day. But I do think we need to start putting people in their place as a community and doing the actual police work. And I actually fucking mean that. I'm not joking. Something needs to be done. Because we can't let this keep happening. Not at this point. Not when the country's on the verge of essentially fucking itself over because of reform. And I guess like the police work needs to be like investigative journalism and stuff, and also just pure like the stuff that police would do anyway. Like tracking and actually getting like proper sources like IP addresses even. We fucking need to do this because it's getting too out of hand at this point, and people think they're safe because they're part of a bigger group, but they're not. Like, nobody's safe on the internet. There's always a workaround, there's always ways to figure these things out. There's, like, you can fucking use facial recognition now, I think, to literally discover the identity of someone. So, nobody's safe, really. And that's important to note. So let's move on to another topic, because that just got unfortunately dark. I would have added a trigger warning, but at this point it's just so fucking normalised at this point. It's sad. So here's an interesting topic. I don't really see discussed often, but it is actually somewhat more real than it's ever been. I think back to my college days when I was still on Facebook and viewing the fucking trending stuff on the side, which was annoying. There was always some news story that triggered some sort of rage or depression, because some of it was depressing. I can't remember many stories, luckily, which is probably for the best. There's often like stories about terrorism and I think war in some places, and just celebrity stuff, which annoyed me because I couldn't give a single fuck about celebrity. And yeah, it got on my nerves a lot. And back then, it was like, it's just more easily to get enraged by it, but also forget it as well. That's the other thing. Because it was just Facebook trending and I wasn't really looking at any other news sources, there wasn't really much reason to stay angry. It's just like, oh, another child abuser. Great. And the next day it's like, oh, what was I going to do today? Also not read the news, but do something else. Yeah, you just literally forget the news of yesterday. But nowadays it's so prominent that it does mean there is a proper issue with news now. Because news now is about making as many of the same articles as you can, and also like word salad, let's be honest, like some of them do. They just make it as complicated as possible, and it's just fucking ridiculous. Like, come on. It's so bad, and I just find it's a real disappointment. Because news should ideally be about spreading the goodness in the world. You know, just some of the good things. And I don't feel like it's really rational to have it so that the world is like seeing the same thing over and over again. News sources are definitely liable for damages done, because, let's be honest, if they're saying misinformation and stuff, they need to be brought to justice and sued. You need to have their entire operation investigated and sort of looked into. Like that, it needs to be exposed, essentially, and that's what needs to happen, I think. And it got me thinking about something else, because we're in this current climate where people are just openly evil and bigoted, and these evil people typically end up being the types who would justify abusive behaviour, sort of forcing you into a dark topic, but that is literally what they do. You know, they say something, they're like, oh yeah, but it's alright to abuse people or something like that, or abuse kids. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And they actually don't give a shit about children, for real. And suddenly you get like the United Kingdom stuff and into like anti-immigration protests, and it's like, well, hang on, aren't most of you the ones doing this? And they just don't seem to give a shit. Like, they claim to protect women and children, and ironically, in the same vein, they're the ones doing it. Like, this is a joke. Like, are you shitting me? It's just baffling. And it relates to this thing that we see more commonly now, a phrase which actually ironically is a new sort of epidemic. I always call it a pandemic for some reason. That's close. It's a very different thing, I think. But an epidemic. The accusation confession. Every accusation is a confession. Epidemic. That's what it is. That's because it is literally that. Like, the thing you always see is people who are trying to do something that's supposedly righteous ends up being the thing that they're doing, and well, the thing that they're supposedly against. Like, it's fucking sickening, and it just makes no sense. Like, why the hell are people allowed to get away with this, for starters? And why is it so common? Well, every accusation is a confession, literally. Like, word for word with these people. It's the same in the UK, it's the same in the US at the moment. It's just so disgusting. It reminds me of this discussion I saw with, what was it? I think it was a left-wing talk show. It was like a call-in show, actually, not talk show. He's quite popular on TikTok, and he confronts MAGA people and Trump supporters. And he was discussing something with one of these callers, two people I think actually, at the same time, about how Trump essentially would go into like girls' locker rooms to fucking spy on them, to sexualise them. And these parents, who I think also had a kid, who are Trump supporters, were like, they're trying to defend Trump in this situation, saying like, well, you know, he's the president, he can do what he wants. It's like, are you fucking joking me? Like, even the host was just like baffled by this. Like, these parents are literally fucking paedophiles. And then it somehow got on to like, they need to give permission for this to even happen. Like, the child needs a parent's permission to perform a sexual act. Which is just like, what? Are you fucking... Ugh. There's no words that can describe how evil these parents are. Like, rightfully, I'm just fucking mad about this, as well as the host. It's like, this is so fucked up. Parents' permission for... I'm not even saying. It's so gross. And yeah, like, there's really no argument that can be made against that. It's like, it's obviously wrong because of how it affects a child. I suppose there's the argument, actually. But the fact these parents are just willing to defend what is an abhorrent action by someone who is obviously just an abhorrent person, it's just crazy. It's new amounts of delusional and even confessionary. Because it is literally a confession about what they actually believe and what they actually want to happen to them. What they want to happen to them. It's just so fucked up. Like, imagine, I don't know how the wife probably felt. Like, who knows? She is probably abused, let's be honest. Like, imagine how she would feel as a child in that situation. It's like, she wouldn't like it, would she? Like, are we missing something here? Again, it's like all types of fucked up, and this is the reality we're in. I just don't get it. And the world is just like, it's just crazy. And the fact we're getting this on TikTok as well, relating to the other topic from earlier, it's just, I don't understand it anymore. Yeah, this world is becoming very dangerous, and at this point, I think people will have the power, and you should just do something about it. The police aren't going to. And you know, the more of these people that there are, and obviously they can't really go into prison for nothing at this point. Because, you know, like, even if they do say, like, oh yeah, sexualising children is fine, they'll say that, and a bunch more people say it. They'll be all over TikTok or YouTube, and it'll be something that probably little lost at this point, let's be honest. I'm gonna predict that. But it'll be everywhere, and it'll be so common that the police just can't do anything about it, even if it is against the law. So they'll have to release people from prison, for starters, to make room for these cunts, and then they'll have to somehow address the law so that it's actually fine to say this, so people stop going into prison. It's like a societal sort of trend, I guess. That's how bad it's going to get. So long as people are allowed to do this. As long as this fucked up shit is allowed to happen. And yeah, because there's so many, you can't put them all in prison either. You need to build new prisons, or at least start to take privileges away from people. Like, I think if people are actually going online sexualising children, they need to go through some sort of rehabilitation for starters, and they have to be forced to go there because it should be mandatory. You know, we need to drill in empathy somehow, because you need to, because that's what's causing this problem. We need to stop them from being able to make their presence known in this sense, because this is dangerous. Like, everyone will come out of the woodworks who is like guilty of this shit, and unashamedly so. Like, even in like a hypothetical where, you know, I'm trying to think, like, if you're like guilty of like a crime but you come out of it rehabilitated, as I keep mentioning here, how, like, what would those people do exactly? Because that is kind of an overlying thing here. You know, if those people have learned their lesson, then fair enough. Like, I think if they've already done their lesson, they should be able to defend the people that they actually harmed. And that'd be like a great way to redeem themselves. But I think not everyone is going to be capable of doing that. It's just annoying. But in the end, I think that might be one of the only saving graces, really. Like, the more rehabilitated people you have, the safer the world could possibly be. And I think it would also highlight a lot of what was just misunderstood for years as well. That's one of the things that sort of gets me when I researched this topic myself, having been a witness to this abuse as a child. I just have a lot of negative thoughts around it, and doing the research actually did give me some closure in that sense, which I didn't really expect. But it's like, when I realised what it meant, what it actually means, it's kind of like, oh, and this means that, yeah, like, it's something inherent to someone. It won't necessarily go away. And because of that, I think people who feel like they're like trapped probably are the ones doing this sort of thing, the ones trying to justify it in a sick way, unfortunately. So, yeah, it might be them who needs help, but who knows. I do find it's quite a sick situation still, either way. Yeah, like, I wish things could be better. That's basically all I'm saying here. Probably just unfinish the sentence because my memory just wiped itself. I should probably upgrade the RAM. Anyway, yeah, so it's literally an accusation, confession epidemic. It's one of those things at the moment where it's even true for the people who supposedly defend it, like defends innocent people and stuff. And they're currently ongoing with that sort of shit. So I don't know at this point. It's going more difficult to address because of just the frustration of it alone. And I'm constantly feeling like I've done all I can at this point to address this sort of thing. People don't listen, and people don't seem to give a shit about making the world a better place, and that's a big problem. Again, someone needs to rehabilitate those people. In some way, there has to be something you can do. Some people are just inherently evil, but some have the capacity for change. I think if people are like generally using the protect the women and children narrative, there is a possible chance they can change. So so I don't know. Let's move on to the next topic. Apologies if this was already addressed before. I did make something on it, but I didn't. I think I deleted it because I just wasn't happy with what I was saying in that, and I think it's kind of relevant now. So this other topic is interesting. I had to restart basically because I got distracted. Someone got in, I don't know what the fuck was happening. God, there's noise again. Fuck's sake. I don't know what's causing it. Like, there is a gap where my lock is, but that shouldn't be doing it. Like, there's ways that it's stopping shit from coming through, so I don't understand that. Yeah, I have to wear my headphones because I can't fucking stand that. I got finished watching a video by Mike the Vegan, and it was about basically too much happening in the world to even really bother with animal rights, and I have to agree for the most part, because currently in the world, as much as we need to focus on animal rights, we can't focus on that without addressing other forms of oppression. The other forms of oppression, obviously, they come in the form of American politics at the moment. Also, other places like what's happening in Gaza, what's happening with Russia versus Ukraine. There are so many different places where this happens on an almost daily basis. And because these atrocities are so common, where they were so common like 3 years ago, well, actually the Gaza one was always prevalent, but still, it's less known, I think, and that's probably the difference. Because obviously the social media has spread it, more informed. Yeah, like, there is a lot going on, and I think to address veganism and animal rights, you need to address the bigger elephant in the room here, which is the oppression of people. Because I think that's going to be the only way you can tackle this topic, especially if it's this sensitive of a topic. I don't think you'll necessarily be able to last in a society where all oppression is essentially down to a single governing body. Again, like in American politics with Trump. But it also could happen in the UK, where if Reform win, then we'll have to deal with whatever fascism or dictatorship he brings to the table. There's essentially one guy saying all this shit, saying that special needs people are pretty much scum of the earth, and should get jobs somehow. But yeah, we can't really address anything in that situation because it's a domino effect. When one person's rights are taken away, they'll experiment with taking another's away. And then it'll just go down the chain, and eventually like, animals will be there at some point. And then you can't really do anything because they fucked us over, fucked the animals over. There's like, no way around it. Like, it's such a harrowing situation in that sense. Because it makes a fucking noise. I need to deal with this. I think it's stopped now. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, why it took 15 minutes to do the dishes and put it away, I don't know. It's fucking weird. I don't know why I'm hearing that. Yeah. Weird enough, that's a sort of depression as well. Just, lack of soundproofing and shit is a real problem in these houses, and it is ironically kind of ties into how our situations are taking priority. And in the Mike the Vegan video, he talked about how we need to prioritise our own health, which is reasonable. It's not an unreasonable claim to make, and I think it's kind of important. I didn't realise the importance of that myself before when I was going through some bad times, like a few years ago, trying to get a relationship, trying to get my virginity of all things. I didn't realise at the time that actually all I needed was a change of mindset, and that was literally all it took to make me feel happier and feel safer. But now I'm into politics and stuff, and it just suddenly feels kind of dark and really pointless. It's annoying. I don't really know what else I can do exactly. Yeah, there's so many dystopian things happening around the world, despite what's happening like in politics. As we do find that there are cases where in other countries they're already doing such dystopian stuff that will harm the planet. And I haven't watched the Xi Jinping climate goal thing. I pretty much doubt he's going to even address it properly. Nobody has so far. Very few politicians actually have, but nobody so far has even done that. But I can guarantee you that he's a fucking hypocrite, because they've approved of something in China where essentially the climate goal would pretty much become a problem, because it's a spiral effect. They built this, like, was it 40-story concentration camp for pigs or something? Which it is, by the way. It's fucking dystopian as hell. And they're trying to like farm pork there. And this is like in the middle of a city as well. So imagine the noise and the fucking smell. There's so many problems with this shit. Not to mention you're still farming animals, so if you want a climate goal, repurpose that fucking place into vertical farming. Or mushroom farming. Like, mushrooms are probably better actually. But it's just so bad. It's completely baffling that this sort of thing is approved whilst at the same time claiming there's a climate goal. That's sort of where the politics becomes important, because it is oppression at the end of the day. I'm not happy with how China's handled some of its laws and its people. This is just stemming from what I've known about Genshin Impact alone. And there's no LGBTQ plus rights. There's not really any sort of security for people who are disabled, but there's literally no rights for people. And it's a society that really sort of indoctrinates people and makes them believe that their country is right. And there is a lot of like phobias and stuff. There's a phobia of Japanese people for some reason. There's a phobia of the West. There's all this sort of bullshit that happens in China, and also like the gaming curfews and stuff. Forget those. They're not allowed to play games after a certain time, or even for a certain amount of hours. It's completely fucking dystopian. And you do need to tackle that before you tackle anything else, because that's going to be where the problems lie. If people aren't spending time gaming, which by the way could probably help you lose weight, they're going to be fucking causing more problems. Like, they're going to add to the climate problem. People are just going to be depressed in the end because they just feel like they're trapped and there's no way out. And obviously people have to be closeted anyway, just to stay safe. There's just so much wrong with China, not to mention other places. The US trying to ban lab-grown meat. It's just, oh, fuck's sake. They're getting then shutting down like space stations or things for seemingly no reason. It's just all going to shit, and that's why the focus tends to move, because it's like there's so many absurd things and injustices. People are forced to actually go out and do something about it and talk about it, like inspire. It's actually the reason I got into this. There's a lot of injustice, and it's like one of those things I ignored for years because it's essentially pointless. And people just didn't seem to really care. And then I started caring about the politics and like LGBTQ plus stuff and disability, and getting into that. And eventually I just realised like, oh, this is all sort of linked. It all sort of bleeds into each other. It combines. And it's actually a domino effect. At the moment in the US, where if they do a martial law, apparently it wasn't about that meeting. It was about fucking marketing stuff. I don't know why. It's just stupid as hell, because that's what it's become. It's become complete idiocy, and if that even somehow takes priority over well-being, then we have to focus on dealing with that however you can. I'm starting to see content creators for like US politics and stuff talking about what to do now that Trump is potentially going to put the military on civilians because of, well, what they believe in. Like, he's going to, let's be honest, send them to democratic states to deal with them in the way that he sees fit. Just so fucking bad. And apparently they still have this problem of them taking immigrants and stuff, putting them into camps, and then them disappearing. Like, something really fucking dark is going on there. So, yeah, like, no doubt, these things take priority over animal rights, unfortunately, because they're all linked. If they weren't linked, we can easily focus, and like, essentially it was before. All these problems have become so prominent that there's essentially no way out of this other than addressing these other problems head on. It's easily arguable that focusing on human rights at this point is essentially focusing on animal rights, because that literally is what needs to happen. As I said before about something like the slaughterhouse workers, where it's literally how they're like not necessarily discriminated against, but like there's a lack of care in that, and it sort of ties into animal rights because it is literally related. So one oppression linked to another. And it's like all under the same umbrella, so it's the same thing. And when animals are oppressed, so is a human at some point. That's worrying. But that's sort of my statement on that. It's really not hard to figure out. It does depend on how much you actually know. So, yeah, let's move on to the next topic. I can't remember if I've ever talked about this, but I've had a video idea for a long time that I never released, and I don't know if people are interested in it, honestly. Because it's an idea that really would change the game industry for the better, I think. And it's an idea that would pretty much universally work in a way that players can understand, and it can tell them enough about a game's sort of scumminess so they can actually make an informed decision. It's basically a concept called the FOMO scale, and I made this with the intent of specifically highlighting when a game is actually trying to con you with FOMO elements, and there are a lot of games at the higher end, and surprisingly Final Fantasy XIV was at a 12 out of 21 because I've managed to find, well, making everything like 1 out of 3, like a scale thing. 1 to 3, I mean. I managed to find 7 things that would be FOMO elements, and these included things like gameplay, servers, what was the other thing, like character story even, the events. Like there's different elements of a game that could potentially be impacted, and I took note of these. So what I sort of discovered was even good games can have FOMO in them, and the scale basically revealed that even great games can have them, but no game is actually exempt, and that's kind of why I think it was a failed concept. Because whilst it revealed some very important details, it also failed to explain that games are fundamentally just a ticking time bomb. Even games that were released like 10 years ago. I guess preservation comes into it to an extent. Whether something's re-released or cross-platform, but you can't really tell they're a new game, so it's hard to tell. But the scale anyway was, again, primarily to do with that, and it was an interesting concept because it would have actually worked in a lot of ways. I can't remember if I said, but Final Fantasy XIV was like a 12 out of 21, which is still quite high, but it depends on the elements of it, really. So it's not really that big of a deal in the areas where it's not that big of a deal. So as it sounds, it's actually what it is. But it's like the different elements, and like Server was like a 2 out of 10 because the game could just die one day. 2 out of 10, 2 out of 3 even. There's a rated everything on a scale of like low chance, no chance, even a case of like zeros, but like a low chance, an average chance, or a high chance that something could happen because it is itself a gamble. So I designed the scale with that in mind because literally it meant that games were getting away with this shit and they shouldn't be allowed to. And the other thing with the FOMO scales, I wanted to instill fear into the greedy corporations who make these games and publish them, essentially. And that was sort of the intent behind it anyway. Literally to fearmonger greedy companies, and even developers for that matter, let's be honest here. Yeah, the intent was there to do something good for the gamers who are the ones who are ultimately affected by this at the end of the day. And believe it or not, it's their rights, it's their human right that is on the line here. But the thing that this all taught me was that not everything is as simple as it seems, because even making something like this was sort of complicated in its own right. I needed to sit back and sort of look into like the various elements. Like why the hell was this like whatever. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. I think I'm actually gonna die. Fuck this game, Final Fantasy. I'll never sink with you. Fucking hell. That's weird. Yeah, so it's very bizarre, in honesty. I just find it disturbing that games have gotten to this point where individual people need to investigate the games themselves and figure out like what works and what doesn't. And the FOMO scale was really there to highlight that, really. To show you what elements do not work with you. And look at Genshin Impact, for example. Like character design has an impact because if a character like looks appealing or something or is playing well and it lasts in only that meta without a chance of improvement, then it's generally fine. But then you get characters who are literally designed broken on purpose, which is real scummy because it means that character is only going to be relevant for like one patch or something, meaning they're not relevant anymore. So if you wanted that character something like patches down the line, you wouldn't actually have a chance with it. It'd be useless. It's like comparing, and I haven't played Genshin in a while, let's see, probably that user to Marika, who's like the biggest DPS at the moment, I think. But Marika was like so game changing because she was a nuke, she was a solid DPS, she was everything that you could ever want in a waifu. But Yuza was like really outdated as a kid, as a character as well, I think. She's not really expanded upon, she's like one of the most forgotten characters in the game. So it's just busted from the start, like doomed to fail. So it wasn't great. And yeah, the FOMO scale revealed that Genshin was like, I think it was like a 18 out of 21. Just nuts. Because also rated the element of basically post-game lifespan, and what I mean by that is if the game's a life service, much like Final Fantasy XIV here is, and Ongoing Star Rail, and Deep Rock Galactic to an extent, there is always a chance they can shut it down, and that's not an impossibility. With Genshin Impact being, well, obviously a limited story, it is inevitably going to shut down one day when it's done. And I think Hoyoverse have already done it with their other games, so you've already got proof of this happening. So it's just real scummy because it means that, yeah, you can miss out. So characters will be gone, just various elements will be gone eventually, but the servers, more importantly, will go down, so you never get to experience that ever. So that's a problem. So that's why I addressed it. That's why it's important to address. So that's why it got such a high rating as well. It's like all of these elements of FOMO, and they have themselves to blame for this, being like so scummy. Yeah, it just makes no sense that a game is like this, because it doesn't need to be. It could be the best game ever and still be really successful. But it's not a good game, and it's just flawed. It's got FOMO elements that prey on vulnerable people, and that's also another element I think I added into that. But it's very important that I highlight these things. But it's obviously the reason why I didn't release it. It's because I wasn't confident in it. Because I know that some players, I think, will not necessarily turn on me. I know they will anyway, because it's Genshin Impact. But I knew that people would look at it and think like, God, this is a stupid idea. Why are you doing this sort of thing? That's the reason I did that. It's just to protect people. Like, it just makes no sense. So I was very insecure about even mentioning it, let alone releasing it. So it's just massively uncomfortable. So yeah, I didn't release it in the end. I'm trying to think what else I had it on there. Yeah, I just think the idea was good, but I just didn't execute it very well. Someone could probably improve upon it, I don't know. I was going to bring it up with like Wholesome Gaming as a subreddit, because they're pretty anti-FOMO for the most part anyway. But I was worried about the backlash it could get, because yeah, as an idea it might be flawed in some ways. Yeah, Deep Rock Galactic actually got like, I think a 3 out of 21. I can't remember what I said. Which is still good, but again, it's like, it's a really good game, but how has it gotten that? Well, because it's still a live service, fortunately. So it's in the same category. It wasn't anything to do with that, really. That's the reason I didn't make it. Yeah, I wanted to bring it up and refer to it with people and get ideas, get advice and feedback. Also, I couldn't do that. I swear there was something else that made me not want to release it. Can't remember. But really, it's like one of those things. It's just I thought I had an idea, and it turns out I don't really. It's just annoying. Yeah, so that's the FOMO scale that never released. Like, I still have a script for it. I think I even read it out. I even read the script that I had. And I also had a template for it as well. I even had a fucking image. But the general idea, again, is like the higher number, the worse it'll be. And it could even be for individual elements. It's like a basic rating system, but it works in a way where you can accurately evaluate what's to come in terms of FOMO, if any. And I even had the image, as I said, to go with it, and that would reveal that it's was it? Oh yeah, the colours. I had different colours, like I think blue to green to yellow and red. Like there's a scale, like the usual colours. But that was there to basically give a colour to it and make it easier for people to understand. So like if you see like orange or red, it's like you're in the danger zone. If you go green, yellow, it's not as likely to be that bad, but still a risk. And then green and blue is like very low risk to nothing. So that's the FOMO scale. Interested to know what people think. Finally, a fun topic to talk about. This is one that I actually looked into, I think towards the beginning of the year. Maybe just after. I can't remember when actually. But it's something that YouTube randomly is a word, randomly recommended me. And it was about Minecraft. Now I have a love-hate relationship with Minecraft. I had played it like every few years, do a survival save, get bored, and then just leave. They're actually 100%ed it exactly. I've gotten like Netherite armor and stuff, and beaten. I think I beat the End Dragon like a few times. Not sure about the Wither, and definitely haven't played since the Warden update. But I just don't like how the company really does its shit, like Microsoft. Completely stealing mod ideas and also like sending cease and desist orders to mod creators, which is just scummy. Like, why? And I think people are literally suing them for it, which is good, and I'd support them wholeheartedly. But Minecraft is one of those things where it's a game I want to like, and the developers do seem down to earth, but it seems like someone there is just fucking them over constantly and not making a good image for them. You know, if you treat your players and these mod creators like shit, you're just the problem. And it reminds me of this whole guns controversy and also like swear words and stuff in the server. It's so fucking stupid. Like, I don't understand why that's even a thing. It just shouldn't exist. And as a result, I've just felt like I've fallen out with Minecraft. I don't know why my voice is cracking again. It makes no sense. Yeah, like, I just fall out of it because I do not like these practices that they're employing. It feels super scummy, for starters, but also just makes you not feel welcome because it is just shitty. It has no place in a current climate of gaming. Like, mods are so important, and so is the freedom to be able to do whatever you want. Like, I'm almost 90% sure there's like porn mods for Minecraft, and they're not doing anything about that. But they care about guns. That's fucking suspicious. Okay. But you know, maybe the next Roblox situation, who knows. Anyway. Fuck my voice. I just find it's weird because I like the game as a concept, and especially in like the ways that players have used it. It's always fascinated me, like redstone computers, the the mods that exist that actually make it better, like shaders and mod packs. There've been so many things that make it good. And it's one of those games that you really don't want to die in. You're actually glad that Notch doesn't have anymore. This is right fucking cunt as it stands. He completely ruined his image, which sucks. He had the opportunity to do something different and he didn't. He instead doubled down on it, on his bigotry. But one of the things that keeps the game alive, I think, is, other than the updates, it's also the modding impact. I better mute his stream on this and say fuck you. It's got the Yoda scream as a alert. It's fucking, it's funny as hell, but I can't concentrate on that. Yeah, that's the sort of situation there. But one of the things that really took my interest, as YouTube recommended it to me, is the whole modding scene around a specific mod. And this mod is called Distant Horizons. The reason why this mod is so important to me as a former Minecraft player is because it lets players anyway, like, I'm not playing it, but lets players live out this dream, and my dream specifically I had, where you couldn't actually render more than 64 chunks at a time, which was always a problem because it just fucking sucks that you can't see more than 64 chunks, and it's laggy as hell. Back in the day it was anyway. And it's so like bad that you can't render it out like that. It's almost like it's really disappointing, basically, that you can't render it more than that. And even then, like, Ultifine allowed you to do like 128, I think, and even 256, and it's just too laggy even beyond that point. So, like, it just feels like it's unfinished, even with the mods. And for years, it's like, I'm not really that interested until they can fix the render distance. I want to see more of the world. I want to be able to see like a fucking village in the distance. And I'll just bring it upside in the distant horizon Minecraft shaders, maybe. Yeah, the mod is called Distant Horizons, and it finally fixes that issue. There's a video by Asian Half Squat, I think it is, or some of it. Basically called The Best Minecraft Graphics Mod. It's available now. And it literally is. It's absolutely fucking insane how much this adds to the game. And makes it look different with shaders as well. It is unbelievable. And I just finished watching a showcase of it with a map called Everest, I think it was. Everest 8000, I'm not sure if that's the name. But it just makes it so insanely detailed, and holy shit, like, even as a paid mod, like, shit. It's not shit actually, it's gold. But this gold is like 100% worth it because it's so fucking cool. It changes the game in such a big way. Like, there is Mount Everest, almost 4 months ago, by Hoodleton. But it's insane the amount of detail there is. And just like, you can see the distant mountains, you can see trees from a distance. It's insanely good. And even then, like, the Distant Horizons mod makes it so that you can see even farther than that. Which is just like a complete wet dream, and the fact it looks like an entirely new game is just so, just wow. That's fucking mind-boggling, jaw-dropping, and I don't know, like, it's just incredible. Like, I've never seen anything like it, and it's just so fascinating to look at. It is insanely good, and that's something that the game sorely needs, like, as it is anyway. Because as much as they can update it, they won't. The problem is they're not gonna fucking make it better by also releasing just new items all the time. They need to actually do something like this, where you can see the horizon, you can see massive changes being made to the game, like even as an optional or just an experimental thing. Like, it's important to have that. And back in the day, it's like we experimented with texture packs and little shader here and there, and it was barely even possible to run those as it is. But yeah, and it's good to see that there's a mod like this. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's just one of the best things I've ever seen in gaming, period. It's just crazy because I'm not really a graphics sort of person, but I do find some graphics just jaw dropping. And for a game as old as Minecraft is, it's also just amazing to see it get this much attention and this stuff from a single mod, of all things. It actually makes the game feel a bit more complete and like even worth playing a bit. Despite all the controversy that's happening around it. It just reminds you that there's still some really talented people out there. Everyone was making a shader pack 10 years ago or so, and none of them works really. They looked good, but they didn't run properly. But eventually it improved, and you're at this point now where you can have distant horizons and shaders, and not even have a massive FPS dip in that case. It does require a good PC though, but it's still incredible. It's just massive props for making distant horizons. It's easily been one of the biggest pulls for me to possibly get back into Minecraft. I think if it would work with a server, like being on a server and stuff, that would definitely improve it, in my opinion. It would make it better. Especially like multiplayer and stuff, and you could because you could sort of freak out some people. They say, "Oh, there's a witch's hut." It's like, wow, like I don't know, maybe say it's treasure, but it's just an interesting things you could do with that, I guess. They could even make like flag poles and stuff, so you can see where your friends are. That is one of the waypoint things. Yeah, I'm really happy with that mod, and I wanted to talk about it for a while, but I only really made a post about it. It's completely amazing, it's jaw dropping, and yeah, I recommend you check it out yourself, just to see. I don't think you'll regret it. Trust me, I've never seen Minecraft look like this, ever. Let's move on to the next topic. So talk about Green Party, and I don't mean to get into politics again, but the interesting thing is people are bringing up this comment consistently now about how the Green Party is irrelevant, quote unquote. And this is just blatantly false, because there are numbers here. I've looked on the Wikipedia page and see they've reported it in PDFs because they have to do financial statements. I've heard about this. Apparently, was it Labour that Keir Starmer is under now? Yeah, I think it is. And basically, Labour currently is funded by something that's basically not documented, so it's actually illegal, which is interesting, and it's also very fraudulent. So that means there is a means here to essentially get Keir Starmer off government, because he's actually basically completely in the wrong position here, and he's faking his fucking leadership by being funded by someone privately. So the donations that Labour would get are seemingly due to some random fucking billionaire behind the scenes. We don't actually know, but they're doing something suspiciously here, and that's worthy of a note. And where this sort of ties into the Green Party, a lot of things is actually because they actually report it. The Green Party actually reports when they have financial statements, and there are some where it's not documented, like 2020 and 2017. Maybe I'm not counting mine and some others. 2000 have been reported on. But yeah, they've always existed, like since 2002 apparently. Reported at financials at the end of the year, supposedly. And yeah, like they've always sort of existed here. Let's see, like since 1992 apparently. They had 1 seat back then, they had 0 then, but now it's like up to 4 since 2024. And they're getting more votes as well, which is good. And like the percentage is up too. That's a really interesting part. And European Parliament apparently is up. Don't know what that means exactly. Not too familiar with the European Parliament. But yeah, like, it's interesting. But they've essentially reported their memberships, and what's important to note here is they've increased steadily. They started in 2015 with, well, 2014 I should say, but they've grown gradually over the years. From 2002 it's 5,200 up to 2013, where it's now then even 13,809 members. For 2014 they over doubled that and made 30,900. In 2015 somehow they even doubled that again. I'm not sure how. But then they dropped off in 2016, about 20,000 members roughly. 2018, 39,000, 2019, 50,000. Then suddenly increased into March 2025 at 60,000. And finally we got to September 2025, which is recent, and it's actually this month. But they're at 80,000, which is impressive. And it's pretty important that they get the memberships, because I removed a thingy about this, I think, in my last podcast, about whether I wanted to fund the Greens, and I thought it was a stupid question, but actually I think it actually was. Because I think I should, at this point. They stand to do the things that I want to see happen in the country, and the more seats they get, the better. I think one of the things that they need to focus on is interacting with people and showing that the Green Party isn't as it's made out to be, because no doubt we're going to see smear campaigns from the likes of Reform and probably Labour at this point, let's be honest. But that's all to basically get themselves into bad parties into good books, because to be honest, there's no good party at the moment. The Green Party is the best option. Yeah, as I said, it shares a lot of my ideals, but that's it really. There's no one else out there who's actually addressing the problems that we actually need to address. That's why I think the Green Party is actually going to essentially be successful, and no doubt have more seats this year than ever before. But I think they need to make themselves more known and ingrained in the public. Like, they shouldn't need to fucking get distracted by stream. Get themselves out there, get themselves known, make a fucking controversy already, like about Reform or immigrants. Yeah, actually address people on, again, as I said, on the level that they understand it. You know, use rage bait, because even though this is deceiving, and it might make some young voters like me, but I'm not that stupid though, but make people think twice about them. You know, if you can gain the respect of people who are supposedly disagreeing with you, you can actually show them where to actually like fact check and stuff. As I said, the anti-immigrant stuff. It's very important to address that, no matter what party you are, what side you're on. And basically proposing it rather than like a bunch of information, you should just do it like Reform do it. Expose a problem, say you'll address it, don't exactly iterate how, because Reform definitely haven't, as far as I know. But that's essentially what they do, is fighting fire with fire. And I think that'll be a really effective tool in obviously getting votes Also, people think like, wait, the same Green Party, like the one that's been supposedly irrelevant for years. Like, yeah, it gets them thinking, and they realise that they're wrong about something. And that's what I mean about gaining respect, gaining attention. Because I think you need people to understand this. It's one of the things we're guilty of, at least, with being so knowledgeable on these topics anyway. It's the people who are knowledgeable are just going to be not knowledgeable for a very fucking long time, perhaps even forever. And relying on them for any sort of support is just going to be unreliable. Look, relying on them even, I mean to say this actually, relying on them to understand something that you've researched and displayed is probably not going to work out because they're not smart enough to understand it. It's like bringing up how animal agriculture is like the leading cause of climate change and environmental destruction. They will refuse to listen to that because of obviously bias. But the other part that really fucks it over is the fact that it's that it's so complicated and the details, like you need to explain how, and that doesn't appeal to people. And if it was painted in a way that's like anger and stuff, it might actually appeal to people. So again, using this sort of strategy that Reform is doing, where there is actual anger, and displaying it even, could probably do a lot. So I think that's important. Trying to think what else to say. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. There is a case also to be made when I've seen another interview of Zach Blask and it relates to this. He's talking about childhood bullying, of all things, and it's not surprising, to be entirely honest. Like, I didn't know any LGBTQ+ people myself in school, other than myself, but I didn't even know I was. But essentially, like, there's no bullying around that sort of thing, and it's probably different like generations. How old is Zach Blask anyway? Hang on. Blask age, let's do that. 42, Jesus. Okay, he's older than I thought. I thought he was like in his 20s. Fucking looks like he's in his 20s. Wow. Slay. Literally, Slay King. But it's weird because I didn't grow up with that much diversity other than like special needs schools and stuff I've been to, and special needs people even. Yeah, like different backgrounds and stuff, and what really fucking saddens me about how he's come out and opened up about this, like the fact he was a victim of bullying during his school years, which is now like 1988, I'd say, 6 years old to 16, yeah. Yeah, so 88 till like 98, which is pretty insane, honestly. There's a lot of school to go through with potentially a lot of bullying, and that's sad. But what's frustrated me about it is the fact that people are using this against him. Are you fucking kidding me? There's someone here opening up about the childhood, basically being a victim of bullying in childhood, which is a traumatizing experience, especially as an adult, because you end up feeling a certain way from that. I've had experience with this myself, and I've known people with that experience too, with similar problems. You end up feeling depressed, and you end up getting a stronger sense of justice in the end. And that's really the only benefit. As if there is a benefit to bullying, which I don't think there really is overall. It's just about teaching people empathy. Yeah, like bullying, it's like the worst of the worst, essentially. You do go through pain and occasional things like, I know, the odd punch or fights or something. Like, that's inevitable for most children anyway. But the bullying stuff is quite uncommon, and it really depends. You know you're being bullied when you're essentially the target of a specific attack, regardless of the content. It could just be like the fact I was overweight or the fact that someone else is actually gay. And that ends up being the reason why someone is bullied, and it's like a consistent thing rather than the one-off event. And that's why I never really had so much bullying in like secondary school, I guess. It's like people, they weren't very interested in picking on me as a victim because they knew I was strong. In primary school I was quite weak. So it sort of changed the tides, but again, you know when you're being bullied. It's simple as that. Because you don't like school, you don't like the bullies that are doing it. It's all like a culmination of these events, and again, you just know. But the people who don't know are probably the ones who are doing the bullying, and it's them who are the problem. And it can be argued now that these people are now coming out of their fucking shells and going onto the internet, doing all this fucking horrible shit, typing things like in the TikTok, for example, and saying that he's weak and we shouldn't have a prime minister like this. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, how is it weak? That hasn't even been explained. That's the thing. You know, I came out of my bullying experience as smarter and stronger because I've gone through enough of it to know that I know when I'm being harassed or bullied. And I've literally been in that situation recently as an adult, and I wasn't necessarily feeling depressed the whole time. It was certainly making me want to feel that way, but I was more frustrated than anything because it was targeted bullying, and there was a familiar feeling as well. It was more of a psychological sort of bullying, and I just knew it was because I was experiencing so much stress and just feeling useless and stuff. But that doesn't make you weak. It means you're actually quite strong-minded. It means that you do actually give a shit about the world and stuff. Because the reason I was bullied, it seemingly was because I was a lonely person and I prefer to be by myself. And I was actually seemingly a better person than him, which also indicates a lot of things, not just about me in general, but about how I viewed the world. And I think it was like complete jealousy that overtook him and caused him to do the bullying. That's what I gathered from it anyway, from that experience. And he was always trying to threaten family and stuff, and then suddenly I shouted at him one day and he ran away like a baby. So it shows that bullies are actually really fucking cowardly inside and really weak. They only bully because they see a weakness, and that's what they think. But how the fuck do they underestimate people? Because that's the problem here. The same with these comments. There was another one, I can't remember what it was. But yeah, the same with the comments here. It's obvious that the people bullying, not just Zach, but even like victims of sexual abuse and domestic abuse, they are the fucking problems. These are the people who prey on vulnerable people, and it's fucking disgusting. It's one of those cases where I feel like the police should direct their attention to these cunts rather than the obvious like fucking like claims out there. I don't know. It's all hard to tackle that one because they're both bad. There are criminals out there doing worse things. But these people, instead of like finding people who are fucking stealing and shit, find these people making the comments, bullying people online, trying to make them feel like their life isn't worth living, that they're fucking weak, and that there's like obvious misogyny there. Like, it's so obvious that these people are the problem. Yet the police don't do anything. The investigators don't do anything about it. So what the fuck gives here? But it's the same thing, like if it was all happening on the streets, they'd get arrested, for sure. Supposedly anyway, it depends on the police. So there's a lot of corruption and bullying there as well. But like if these people can't do it in real life, it just begs the question like how fucking weak are they? They're doing it on the internet. That's the other thing. People think because they're on the internet they're invincible. They can't be touched. That's just false. Actually, I've seen a lot of doxing on TikTok of basically anti-immigrant people that have been exposed, and that was revealed quite easily because they're just making themselves known, and they're stupid enough not to take the steps to cover themselves, to cover their tracks. So they end up becoming fucking exposed. They become doxed. Yeah, doxed. Forgot the word there for a second. It just doesn't surprise me. And there's also people like, is it witch hunting? I don't know the term, but I've seen people also report the places they work as well. So not only just name doxing and profile doxing, it's also workplace doxing, and I've even seen them post the phone numbers for the companies that these supposed racists and immigrants, anti-immigrants I mean, are actually fucking working for. And it's, while I can't condone that behaviour, it's sort of, that's the problem with the justice system, in full effect. The police aren't doing anything, so the people will. And that's why you see vigilantism for many different causes. And one of the things that I've said before that people have to be careful of is when you're doing a vigilantism, don't make it fucking public. They could show the arrests, but you don't show your methods, and that's important. Because the methods is how criminals avoid any repercussions, any consequences. So that they know when to avoid something, and people underestimate like, how smart criminals can be, if at all. I think begs some, I don't know, so they can beg a question there, I guess. It's, so, if you reveal yourself, then yeah, you're gonna get caught. And if you reveal your methods for catching criminals, you can guarantee that people won't be caught. That's just the way it goes. So, yeah, I guess that's really all I could say on this. Yeah, bullies only prey on the vulnerable, and it could sometimes be because of a situation they're in, where they're actually vulnerable, but you never know. But as I say, it's always a good thing to put a bully in its place. Especially these days, it's important. Also, people need to realise when they're becoming a problem in this case, like when people are actually becoming bullies themselves. It's when you're picking on someone repeatedly for seemingly no reason why they're actually stalking them, and just being insulting or hateful. Like, that's it. And it doesn't even need to be like someone who's vulnerable in that case. It can sometimes just be someone who's guilty. It's still bullying regardless, and that's still wrong. Again, in cases of bullying, like with what's happening here in these comment sections, with like Zach Polanski and stuff, again, the bullies need to be put in their place, and that's the only way I think you can deal with them. But I just don't want to see comment sections like that, ever. You can't really police the internet, but you can police people. I've known that for a long time. And I've been one of those people, actually. It's a weird fact about me. I used to be a very toxic sort of person in gaming and stuff, and tell players that they're shit, they're terrible at the game, and just get completely carried away with it. And someone said, like, oh, what if that was you being on the receiving end? It's just made me think that you might be onto something there. Made me realise that what I was doing was actually incredibly stupid and very wrong. Now, who knows how many people have harmed from just spreading that toxicity. And you know, how, not to mention how selfish it is as well. Like, to expect players to play on your level in a game where there's differing skill levels and you're just trying to get a win, like an easy win. It's just fucking selfish. Like, it's just such a bad thing to do. So yeah, I'm definitely one of the problems in that case, and I got my just desserts for sure. In the case of the players turning on me, also just like I've had received like comments here and there on other places. I think it was like that in TF2 actually. I can't remember exactly, but there were cases where it's just deserved really, and yeah. I don't think many people would sort of admit to that sort of thing, which sucks. Yeah, basically put Bullies in their place is the moral of the story. So this was a fair discussion because I didn't really feel happy with how I talked about it. It's about music and basically I have all these instruments, obviously like guitar, bass, guitar, that's it really. And I don't really practice them. And I feel guilty in that sense because I have what are pretty much premium instruments, at least of these lines anyway. Or they're so like mid anyway, not necessarily premium but mid range. And I don't practice them. And I guess people might wonder why don't I practice these instruments even though I use like VSTs for music. And I think the simple reason is I don't really have the motivation to do that at the moment, and probably won't ever, to be honest. Because I enjoy playing guitar and I've learned all the techniques I can. I could just pick it up and play it right now. Actually, I could just do that, prove that. So, got it here. Sound like a stall for a second, but I promise it's not. Play some jazz chords or something. In a C sharp standard, so it does sound a bit ordinarious, but still, it's not impossible to play. But I suppose the thing with practice is the only thing you gain from it. It's like scales, so I don't really know any scales, so I could just do something like that. Yeah. I could also do chord progressions. What? Chord progressions. Or jazzy or poppy. It's interesting. Yeah. I don't know, I don't really practice in that sense. Because I enjoy playing guitar as an instrument, and I enjoy playing other songs. But I also just enjoy like jamming on it every now and then, and finding weird chord progressions and stuff. It's actually hard to discover the chord progression for one of these upcoming songs I'm making. God, that sounds dark. I was expecting that. But it's like things like that. I just discover something random and new. And it just works every now and then. I write it down as a unused riff. So I have a literal tab for this. So I can write that sort of stuff. And it just works really. But yeah, I can't bring myself to practice because I know the techniques. I don't know scales, but that's really all I'm missing. I think technique is important because you do get to know like different things, but also I go by patterns, so I don't really do scales for that reason. I prefer doing patterns, and one of the biggest pieces of advice that people give when, or guitarists anyway, give when they practice these instruments is they want to unlearn music theory because they just keep going into like a pattern of doing only things in that sort of scale. And they wish they could unlearn it. Pretty sure Toast and the Bosses said this. I'm sure about Steve Vai actually. Like some of the greatest guitarists have said this sort of thing, but I must not repeat. And it's always made me curious, like, well, I suck without scales, and it's like, what do I do? And it took me a while to realise, but the middle ground is actually in practicing these patterns and techniques, so I could do like a tapping bit like this or something. Something like this. Yes, like that sort of thing. So instead of practicing that, I practice the jazz chords as well, obviously, as you've heard. I just practice that sort of thing, even like tapping on other strings. So, something like that. Sounds awful. It's because it's not in scale. So, well, maybe it was like this. It's something weird like that. It really varies, and that's the thing with techniques and stuff. The scale is only good if you want to make something constructive in that sense. Constructive in the sense of it follows a sort of already laid out plan or pattern, whatever you call it. The technique is important for essentially like making something up. Something like that. That's weird. Sounds like a anime sort of fucking cover. So, yeah, that's like what I mean with this. It's like I can make some metal stuff and whatever. Yeah, that's mainly why I don't practice, but there's also the time commitment as well. I don't really have the time to practice like hours a day like some of the great guitarists do. Even though I very much look up to them as guitarists, I don't feel like I need to achieve their peaks in that sense. I just don't feel the need to. It's just not worth it in the end. And I'm not planning on joining a band, but I do plan on one day making covers with my own guitars. I think that could be beneficial. It'd make the covers sound better and it'd make them just more polished. I'd be able to make stuff in my style in a way that I can do it consistently. So maybe like harmonious chord thing. Like maybe it's not actually like that, it's maybe more like this, because it's usually, I play with the VST, it's like this and then this. And it actually sounds like a complete sort of chord. If you can play it with like a drop tuning, but that's about it, I think. Yeah, you just discover weird things, and that's also the magic of it. The magic of technique. You end up making accidental discoveries, and that becomes the foundation for some of the music, I suppose. That's why it's so good. That's why I do stuff like this, and then sound like a lead bit. And I could correct it obviously after, so I just made something up there. Something like that. It does work. Yeah, it's like what I do as someone who doesn't practice and doesn't want to. Yeah, I thought that might be interesting for some. Because yeah, I do love guitar, I love bass, I pretty much know bass now, and I like slap and stuff. That sounds like that. That's a pop actually. Slap is more like, can't really do it with a pick. Just make up a random slap song. So, but that's also the benefit of recording, but again I don't have the equipment for it. It's not really worth risking it at this point. I'll wait for a point where I have time free and I can troubleshoot shit, and then I might consider it. Yeah. I've even discovered things like weird anime stuff. That's not that. Maybe it's only standard guitar. Yeah, I don't know, but that's basically just of it, so I'll move on to the next topic and put the guitar back up. So EA was just sold, apparently. Yeah, I grew up with some EA games. I think it's only like Burnout and Burnout Paradise. I played Burnout at a friend's house. Pretty sure there are other games. Battlefield, that was definitely one. Played some of those. 2, Bad Company, and 3, and then later I played 4. That's about it, I think, actually. Don't remember any other games. I swear there was another, because we had that annoying Origin launcher, which was fucking useless. Good god, that was bad. But, yeah, like, people might think the EA being sold might be good. But, I don't know if it will, because I did a bit of background checking, a bit of surface level, to be honest. So I'm not going in depth, but it's a company called Silver Lake, and it's owned by Saudi Arabians. If there's one thing we know about Saudi Arabia in the political spectrum, it's that they're not very nice to certain people. They're actually quite fucking evil. So the things that could happen with these games now, from now on, especially as like an investment opportunity, could be very consequential besides the obvious monetary issues that we might face here. Because it could just very well affect the quality of games as well. Meaning, I don't know if EA has any games like this, but if they're like possibly like a female soccer team sort of game, like that would just get completely no-noed. Because I don't think Saudi Arabia even agrees with women's rights, so it's a bit like, oh, okay, so that's not a good look. So it's boring. And there's definitely more people that be put at disadvantage here and discriminated against. You know, again, based on my knowledge of this, it could be outdated, I don't know, but I've definitely heard bad things about Saudi Arabia. Not like the racist kind either. Actually based in fact. Yeah, this buyout is just boring, and it's also a bad look for the industry overall, because the gaming industry is already in hot shit anyway. They just can't make a good game anymore. EA hasn't for quite a while, other than Battlefield 5 apparently. Was it Battlefield 6? I can't remember which one it is now. I think it's Battlefield 6 actually. But yeah, like, EA doesn't have a good track record as it is. And this really could be the worst thing that could ever happen to EA. Which is crazy, because we'd literally be saying like, we wish it was still EA, or still like their own company. Jesus Christ, it's bad. But also that also means that creativity would also be impacted. I didn't think about this. Because it's owned by, again, Saudi Arabia, unfortunately I have to bring this up because it's political. That means that developers who would otherwise be fine working at EA and everything under their umbrella, they would potentially be fired because they identify with something that the buyers just disagree with, which is extremely fucking frustrating. So there's always that risk as well. You know, I think a lot of channels will skimp over that sort of thing, but that is literally what can happen. And I don't really think there is a world where they would be accepting of, say, diversity. So that is one of the most worrying things of this. There's going to be a lot of layoffs, I reckon. I'm just going to predict that right away. Yeah, you know, the Microsoft acquisition of Activision was what's going on with my voice? I need to fix that. Yeah, the Microsoft acquisition didn't really do anything. I think everything turned out the same again, as far as I know anyway. Usually when big companies are acquired like this, it often comes with a lot of questions rather than answers. And I think because of what we know with Microsoft and Activision, it is likely that there was also a chance that nothing would happen. But we can't also ignore the fact that, again, these roots, like where this company is from, no doubt might play a role into the game's destruction. And just the diversity of developers and content that they make. It's really unfortunate, really. So I was just hoping to work out in the end, but again, keep this in your mind, people, because it does get political. That's what happens with this sort of stuff. So I wanted to talk about something similar to something we've talked about before, actually. But I'm actually going to put my own prediction here and say that nothing's going to change. And I'm talking about Pokemon. So, I just saw a video recently, only a few minutes ago actually. Sometimes I can't find the name of it. Where is it? Here it is. No, okay, yeah, that was it. Why would we be buying a Digimon game over Pokemon? I think it's interesting, and I definitely want to look into Digimon at this point, because I'm going to roll down my list as an anime to watch. But, it's a very interesting video, because it says a lot of the things that I've said. And, yeah, like, they reference the fact that the 2D games were a little more polished, especially as they aged. And it's something that I've sort of referenced myself, because I've said we need a Pokemon game that's 2D, and we need one that's actually fully animated. Not just for individual Pokemons necessarily, but in a way where it could be bought from possibly like a cloud or something, like downloaded on the spot or something, like cloud streaming to an extent. But a game like that would be so beneficial that it would actually make Pokemon great. And I don't know why they haven't done this and made it cross-platform. Like, we need a Pokemon Showdown for the basically every device, and that integrates with like Pokemon Home and stuff, so you have like shinies and whatever, like basically all your progress, all your beloved Pokemon would be in one place. And I think that's really important, because again, we haven't had a proper Pokemon game in years, technically speaking. So it just felt, as the video, it's so stagnant, and it feels too samey. Even despite some of the gimmicks. I like the Scarlet Violet gimmick with terraforming. It's not perfect for sure, but it is something. But yeah, there's a lot of improvements, and one of the big things for me really is not so much about the games, it's about the community. We need to see a change in the community, because the only way we're going to see any other change to these games is if the community comes to accept that Pokemon is dead. It's like a dead internet theory, pretty much, but for Pokemon. Dead Pokemon theory? That sounds like a creepypasta. But, I made some creepypasta last night, it tasted like mould. So yeah, that's nice. But it literally is so baffling that it's taken players this long to realise. Not to mention, I've been saying this since Sword and Shield, and actually even Let's Go. I've been so fed up of the just consistent fucking of Pokemon games since its release on Switch, and the obvious solution is to stop allowing it to be one platform only. Rather, make that a secondary option, like every other game is now. release it to PC or mobile first, then release it to Switch. It's the only way you're going to address it, and until we see that change, I don't think anything will happen, so I can only hope that Pokemon will take notes and improve, but again, that's down to the community as well. Put your money where your mouth is, and shut up if you don't like it. You know, we told you so. I've been telling you this since Sword and Shield. So fuck off. Like, seriously. I hate seeing this franchise ruined, especially with how much of a lovely world it is itself. Fuck, so many Pokemon. Yeah, let's change subject. Completely forgot to record this, but then again, I did get sidetracked, so let's do this as fast as I can, so it doesn't draw out the podcast. How would I approach someone if they've done something wrong? And I was thinking about this because of... It's really not going to happen, I don't think, but in case I'm in a situation where I've either adopted a child or somehow end up with a family, or even just no children anyway, who are related to me, how would I address some strange fucking things that they're experiencing stuff? And basically people go to this extremely defensive, hostile side, which I think can be a bit traumatizing at times, let's be honest here. I know I've had that share of it myself with my own family, my own parents. How do I actually address someone like that who's doing something inherently wrong and fucked up in some cases? I just one calmly, because I think the worst thing you can do is actually show anger. And I think people think that there is a case of, oh, if you show anger, if you show dominance, then that will put someone in their place. But it doesn't always work. Sometimes it just takes a calm approach, and that'll make them change. It sort of relates to my own experience, actually. I've been in some shit before. Not proud of it at all. But the approach I had was completely calm. It wasn't a case of like something dangling over my head or someone trying to dominate me or assert dominance, whatever. It was literally just complete calmness, and I would say that approach seems pretty good for most people. And I think even if the crime is just something disgusting, I don't see how being angry is going to help it, really. After all, I've sort of trained myself over the years to realise that anger is a response to not understanding something, more so than it is understanding something. Because I think if you understood something, it would be less anger-inducing. With how I've understood the world and all these various issues that people have, I've realised that it's not always that simple. I've realised that there's more underneath the surface that doesn't really get acknowledged, and yeah, the lack of that in today's society is kind of to its detriment. It definitely doesn't work as people would want it to. So it's generally how I would address it. I could be wrong on this. For starters, like, let's not ignore that fact. But if I am wrong, it's like, okay, like, yeah, I'll change my view here, do the right thing, as I should be doing anyway, trying to do to begin with. And that's really it, to be honest. Like, there's nothing major. Again, the important thing is literally treating someone with respect and understanding where they're coming from. You know, someone fucked up might be just going through an experience or something else, so you can't assume. And I think the danger in assuming is obviously that you don't get to the bottom of something the way that you'd want to. You'd want to prevent this happening to other people as well. So what the hell are you doing if you're trying to throw punches at people? It just makes you not better than them. And I do think it's kind of disgusting behaviour in that sense. Because yeah, like, someone's done something bad objectively, so in this situation I'm bringing up anyway. but you have to be better than them in order to make them listen. You know, if they don't want to change, then by all means, you take it into your own hands, you do what you can to address that. Yeah, that's literally the only way how, I think, at this point. So yeah, like calmness is just it's a solid strategy in my opinion. Like I'll say I haven't used it much, but I do find that, like even with my abuser actually back in the old house, I just remember using that strategy and just realizing like, oh, like my calmness actually pretty much nullified the situation. I could have gone went out of hand, and it didn't because I was calm. I wasn't hostile. I wasn't saying like go fuck yourself or kill yourself like he was telling me. It's just being better than him. He might be insecure about that, but that's his problem. And I just wouldn't want to stoop to his low. That's the other thing. I've always said this actually. Stooping to someone else's low is not a good thing in any situation whatsoever. So that's pretty much why. So yeah, like hopefully that's informative to people and interesting, possibly. I just wanted to share that really, because I often think about these situations, specifically in this climate anyway. And you know, you're also acting like everyone else, and that's not always a good thing because it means that you're just not trying to break the cycle. Instead, you're just being an angry, whatever, grandparent, parent, uncle. Like, it's the same thing. Like, fuck, even angry sibling, like, that's definitely a possibility. But yeah, I think that's important. So, let's move on to the next topic. Does everyone just have this instinct that a feel-good song isn't necessarily about if it's happy or not, but it's about whether you really enjoy the song? Because that's me sometimes. I just hear a song every now and then, it's like so mind-blowing and inspiring that it just makes me happy. It reminds me that good music exists still, but it's so far and few between that there's also that downside, it's a double-edged sword. That there is a lack of this sort of music. If anyone's ever looked at my depression playlist, where I have things that are supposed to help cheer me up, you'll notice I have some music in there. And also even like a clip thing. There's this really impressive clip thing I recommend. I think it's like 16 ways to play like Steve Vai. And it's just fucking amazing. It's like this guy's own improvisation in the style of Steve Vai, doing these insane solos, like even better than Steve Vai in some case. And it's just like, holy fuck, and that makes me happy. I love Steve Vai, but I love this soloing as well. It's just mind-blowing good. Face melting even. It's just that good. And in that playlist also have random songs. And these tend to be actual either covers or official soundtracks. And these are songs that just make me happy. I've got the wee party music in there for the main menu. Guess what I'm covering one day? I've got Insane in the Rain's cover of Field of Hopes and Dreams from Deltarune, I think it's called. I really like that. And it's even like Xenoblade Chronicles Engage the Enemy. A fucking amazing song. It's like so epic that it just take your mind off it. Of anything, depression, because it's like, it's amazing. There's no doubt more in there, but that's what I mean. Like, also, I could probably do with adding Feel Winning to that playlist. Now think about it, because let's think about the feel good songs and stuff. I got thinking about it of all things through a stripping stream. Stripping as a streamer, not an actual person stripping, unfortunately. But he started a stream with the some music as he usually does, I think. And it was actually a song from my childhood that I remember quite well, and also a band that I'd actually listened to. I was going to make a video on that, but I didn't in the end. But I've actually had the first few Hozier albums, not Hozier, the Hoziers they're called. And the song that I was playing was Goodbye Mr. A. Like, it's a sad song in the context, but it's actually a pretty cheerful song in tone. It's so weird, but it's also so good. It's a lyrically genius. It's about I think a math teacher that I think the singer has, if I'm not mistaken, or someone in the band had anyway. And they're singing about the teacher who unfortunately passed away. I can't remember if it was actually during their time in school, or if it's that's like, I don't know. I'm actually really not sure about that. But it's a really interesting track anyway. It's worth a listen anyway, especially if you're not British. It's quite insightful into like what British music can sound like in like the pop sort of area, and also rock to an extent, because this is rock really. It's really interesting. But yeah, weirdly enough, that's sort of a feel-good song. It's like honouring someone's life. It's again the early genius. It's so upbeat as well. It's amazing. Yeah, I'm trying to think. What's the other thing? And I just think about feel-good music. Again, it's just really depends. It depends on what it does for you, not really for others necessarily. I just find it really interesting. So yeah, it's just a random topic I thought about. So let's leave it there. Let me turn this with a morbid topic, but it's not morbid, but it's just sad, because I don't really know what to say here. I don't really know how to talk about this. I wanted to talk about just when I started to become quiet and stuff. And I don't really know when it actually happened, which is weird. I've had some idea, but I don't actually know when this sort of started happening. So I used to be quite extroverted, believe it or not, in primary school and secondary school a bit. But then I just started to fall out at the moment I went into college, and I don't exactly know when this started, or how it even started. So I've been trying to think over the last few years, like, how the fuck has this even happened? Yeah. And I can only really pinpoint 3 major events. The first one is from childhood, where I've been bullied and stuff. Well, actually, it's probably 4 now, I think, maybe even 5. But where I've been bullied from primary school, and that's just sort of crept off me, like, oh, I'm actually quite vulnerable, that sort of thing. So I guess I better just keep my mouth shut, just in case. The other thing is actually from secondary school, which is my anxiety, which I didn't even know I had in secondary school, and it explains so much of the weird feelings I was getting, like butterflies in my stomach, as well as feeling like I was going to be sick. And yeah, like, that was some of the obvious signs. And just the unwillingness to go to school, which probably stemmed from the bullying as well, so it's sort of interconnected. And that's when I sort of started to notice I was getting quieter, because I wasn't as loud as I used to be. And I'd be like thanking everyone for like Christmas presents, like I was like 10 years old. It's so embarrassing I did, to an extent. I did some weird shit. Just one of those things. Like just being super grateful, but looking stupid in the process. That sort of thing. But then I get to like the age of 13 and it's like, oh yeah, thanks for the presents. And it just got quieter and quieter. And as well as the presents, to be honest, but even then, I grew up in a poor household, so we didn't exactly have the best presents ever. Like, to be fair, like my parents went all out as much as they can, and it was great. But again, it's a poor household, so we didn't exactly have the money to really afford big presents. It's always kind of sad in that sense, but I suppose that might contribute to quietness as well. It's one of those things where the government just doesn't give a shit. I'm autistic, I'm not a problem to them anyway. Apparently that wasn't enough. But like, something like proper benefits and stuff. But yeah, like, anxiety is a real thing that I had. I wish I realised I had sooner. And the other thing that happened is I had my mental health crisis back in 2016, which is where I really noticed I was going quiet. Because I was starting to develop depression as well as realising my anxiety, and I started to feel like I didn't belong anywhere. And it began to weigh on me like quite heavily because it was like, oh, okay, so I'm going through this shit and I'm just not feeling happy. It just sort of started to get me down because there was also this realisation like, oh, I had this problem and I've always had it seems. So I've felt like I've been beaten up by that very fact. And this always sort of crept up on me every time I feel lonely and stuff, because it feels like one of the biggest problems I could ever have, really. And believe it or not, like, I'd say it's like a bigger problem than my autism and learning difficulties, and I don't feel comfortable talking about it. It completely relates to the mental health crisis and also an encounter I had to address as well. Which unfortunately did involve a victim, but still, it's one of those things. I don't feel happy with myself about that, and that's, I think, probably the primary reason why I don't feel like I can talk as much to people anyway. Because I used to be able to talk to people and say things, I used to be able to joke and stuff. And it's quite rare that I do that these days. I'm lucky to even get one off when I speak to people. But it's not always possible. And I also need to be in the right mindset too. I suppose there is a fourth thing. So maybe not five things, but shit, it could be actually, yeah, I might be wrong with that. Actually, no, it's tied to the. Yeah, I'm actually wrong. There's actually four things. The other thing is my autistic burnout, because that very much relates to my communication skills, and when I'm in burnout, I start to experience a lack of communication in that I don't want to communicate because I can't. I'm just in shutdown and I'm focusing on the things that bother me the most, which can be hyperfixation, but it can also just be the God, yeah, stream. It's distracting me. It could also be like sensory issues, which did play a big role in that. And from 2018, I noticed that they were getting worse, and then I had to move in 2023, and I was seemingly happy where I was, but then the burnout kept getting worse and worse, and it just led me to I was having another mental breakdown because I had an abusive housemate on top of that. So it wasn't helping one bit. So I had to move again. And I just felt very stressed from that situation. Luckily, the housemate now, I think. Actually, I will look at the thing. Because he's getting evicted and it's for a specific reason other than drawing two people out. But it's like sort of a reason. I'm trying to look at what it is actually. I need to research this quick. So I looked it up, the specific thing. I couldn't find any info, which is weird. So I'm guessing the reason is actually not personal, but he's being evicted, and that's good. I've also got some news that he had been arrested as well recently. I don't know much about it, and it's fair enough really, because it's still a personal thing. But I can actually share like my experience with this guy because it's literally the same thing. It seems to me like his behaviour will lead him to being arrested anyway. The way he used me and my other housemate, and that just got way out of hand all the time. Apparently, he get physically violent, and he also gave back family death threats. I had them all recorded because, yeah, like, I'm not letting someone get fucking away with that. No way. Doesn't matter what sort of neighbourhood you grow in or whether you fucking grow up around the gangs in London like he claims. You could just fuck off. I've got you on recording and I kept my mouth shut. I stayed away, but he persisted. So he's in the wrong and he got what he deserved, essentially. So yeah, he's a complete fucking nutcase and he needs to be moved away from here, pretty much. Not sure about prison, but at this point it seems like it'd be a blessing. I don't know, like, nobody tells me what makes him be like this, so there's no case of like, oh, it's just a diagnosed sociopath, like, oh, okay, forgive them. But I've not been told that. I've not seen a diagnosis like that. So I can't really accept it, and frankly the fact it's taken this long, like a year later, by the way, after I've left, and even like a few months after my other housemate left. Yeah, like, what fucking gives here? Like, it's taken so long to even do something like this. But that situation has led me to feel more closed in because I've just not felt like myself since moving there and getting to know this abusive housemate. It got me down because I realised that I possibly had a friend once, and then I just started to get depressed and stuff and just not enjoy life that much. And it showed that moving house might have been a mistake to an extent. But in other ways, it's been one of the best things for me. Still, like, that sort of drills home the fact that I'm just becoming so mentally unstable that I can't even trust myself, and that's all sort of led to this, I think. And that's also possibly adding to the fact that I'm more quiet. Just why I don't talk to people much. And I do feel that social pressure whenever I'm in that situation. And it's like, okay, I want to talk about some like minor drama that happened in the house, for example, and I can't do it because I just feel like completely just disabled. There's no other way to describe it. I just feel the pressure. I feel like there's someone like kneeling on my fucking brain or something, or mouth even, trying to get me to stop talking, and that's literally what it feels like. I also feel like there's a filter as well when it sort of happens, when I try to communicate. And what I want to say comes out different to what I actually say. It's always been a struggle, but there we go. So I don't really know. It's a strange topic. I don't know why I'm getting more quiet. I've had these weird theories as well, and weird worries that autistic people just die younger, and I think I actually did see that the average lifespan for autistic people is like 56 or so. Can't remember where I found that, but that's like much lower than the rest of the population, and it's likely because of developing more problems like suicidal thoughts and depression. But also, I do think there is a element to it where how it affects your body does impact that, because it does create high stress and low reward. Like, that's something that actually happens here. That's why I generally feel like I've never accomplished anything. That's why I'm so lacking in confidence, because there isn't actually any rewards. I don't feel like I'm doing anything that's benefiting me. And because I get so beaten up by, again, the problems that seem to be easy to solve but get ignored, and also people don't listen to me, I just end up in a situation again where I'm one of these people who's going to fucking have a lower life expectancy just because people can't accommodate me. And then someone dumbass will say, the world doesn't revolve around you. And, like, should I just fucking kill myself then? Is that your genius plan? I don't fucking get it. If the world isn't going to accommodate me, then what's the point anymore? I'm not even feeling suicidal at the moment, but it's like, why fucking bother? If it's just going to be suffering constantly, it's not even just in like minutes at a time, like those fucking fireworks that happened the other day. What's the point anymore? If nobody's going to accommodate you, not the government, not the fucking support here, what's the point? Genuinely, that's a genuine question. There's no point fucking sending me to a suicide hotline. Answer the question, you fucking cowardly fucking cunts. Like, it just makes me so frustrated. I just hate the fact that people just refuse to answer this question. You need to answer it honestly, because it is a life or death situation. There's no fucking hotline that's going to save us. There's not even one that accommodates us. That's the problem here. Because if there were one, it'd probably be easier to prevent suicide. But there's not one, so people are going to struggle. They're going to feel like there's nothing that can save them, there's nothing that can help. So the only option becomes like fucking life or death. Like, if you're making these claims again that people, that autistic people are too entitled, you're not helping. There's obvious things here, there's inherent traits. We're not like you. We don't necessarily want to be like you. We can't function if the world is against us. So that's why the world often seems like it needs to address us, and why it does sort of revolve around us to an extent. Well, it needs to. So it's really a no-brainer. That's why I find these comments extremely fucking stupid. And even just the ableism in general. So yeah, like, I'm not even feeling suicidal, but in the end I just feel like that's a rational choice. It's something that's up for debate. I'm not fucking crazy. This is literally where the signs are pointing. No accommodation, no care, and people just being blatantly ignorant on purpose as well. Like, fuck off. You clearly didn't care to begin with. You know, I still technically haven't met someone that actually understands me. I bowled up on a call with a one-on-one, was it? I can't remember. But yeah, like, that's the only person who actually understood autistic burnout in my life. Which just goes to show the lack of education, the lack of actual thought and care. It's absolutely fucking absurd. And this is the thing, like, these things that I need accommodation for, that many autistic people need accommodation for, should be funded by billionaires, should be funded by the wealth. And currently, the way the UK is heading, at least, there's going to be no short of that because they're going to promote someone, vote in someone who's essentially funded by billionaires, and will fuck over everyone on the bottom line, which is us. We're the first ones. So we're the actual bottom line here. Not the people in poverty, not the people working low income, disabled people. So they're going to want to cut our benefits, which are going to make our living standards worse. It's going to make accommodation worse. And yeah, like, I will say this because it's important. For anyone voting reform, congratulations. You're rotting the hell you created as well. Doing our first podcast. Fucking hell, what a roller coaster. What have we even got here? Anti-sponsorship, what games, Remastered, Wholesome, Heartbreaking, Racist and Pedophiles. Not the same thing. Game growing to suck, I want to play more. The Accusation, Confession, Epidemic. A lot of topics, even without politics, whether I've some, but still. It's so fucking. Like, the world's in such a bad place anyway, and I don't think you can really avoid talking about this because it ends up creeping up on you, even if you try to ignore it. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's sort of something I have to do at this point. So, I'll just to say the outro, thanks for listening. See you on another time.